Hello, friends. Years ago, congregation of St. John the Divine, a great cathedral in our neighborhood in Harlem, asked me to take their 30 kids to a mosque. So long story short, I took them to a Sufi place where they danced with the dervishes. Kids, 30 kids getting stoned by turning around. And it starts by putting your hands in embracing yourself, being gracious to your own self, acknowledging image of God in you. And you start turning slowly to adjust to a moving world. Then you spread your heads around. One receiving from the cosmos, another one blessing the earth, and turning towards your heart where God dwells. Like that. Whoop. I was younger then. So the sign that you see there is Enso circle, which is a Japanese form of art. Japanese have simplicity about them, and they just want to make one stroke, one brush stroke, imperfect and beautiful. One life, simple, imperfect, and beautiful. And last time we talked about how to double down on your crazy and what Jesus has to do with it. So I just want us to remind us of that. And here's a quote I have. Oh, I have this thing. Maturity begins with the capacity to sense and in good time and without defensiveness admit to our own craziness. If we are not regularly deeply embarrassed by who we are, the journey to self-knowledge hasn't begun. All right? That's called courage. This time, I want to talk about change. And I was talking with my daughter, and we were brainstorming about a title, and I said, how to change yourself. That will be what I want to talk about. And I was like, no, I don't know how to do that. How about how we change? Can I explain that? No, I can't stand behind that. So we settled on we change. That's one thing we know. And it's a good news. It's really, really great. That's enough. There's hope for us all, right? And if we can land that understanding that we do change, that would be awesome. And it started with, we have a long experience with change. It started with Big Bang, or when God's water broke, whatever happened. And then your birth, and then your life, and then this morning. You're different. This morning, you're different. And the issue is here that we don't manage change. We are not change makers, game changers, all of those kind of words. We inhabit change. And that's a different story. So there are two ways of being in the world, just to contrast the two things. A sparkling, spacious, generous, and life-giving way of being in the world, and you know when you feel like that, when you're in that space. And there's also a besieged and set upon and defensive, life-sapping way of being in the world. An astonishing fact is that both of the above lives can be lived in the same circumstances. You can live this way or this way, two people, same circumstances. Now, what is the difference? So I want to read some poetry today, as the last time. And poetry is tough. Poetry is dangerous. It's like mafia of life, you know. Nice little thing you have there, living your little life. You don't want a line of poetry to mess it up, right? So here's one that shakes. This is by Antonio Machado. He's a Spanish national treasure. He was a school teacher, fascinated with ordinary life, with walking and sleeping and waking up, Maybe you know his quote, his famous quote is, "A traveler, there's no path, paths are made by walking," right? So he wrote this poem. It's called Last Night as I Was Sleeping, and he talks about benedita illusion, means marvelous error. When you do something that doesn't fit in consensus reality. And so you discover that through sleep. Because in sleep, we trust the world. We literally paralyze ourselves, our body, we don't move. And things are being washed, not just ourselves, but also our imagination, right? So in the morning, we are close to ourselves. We are different. And here's how he describes the night that last night as I was sleeping. Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt marvelous error, that a spring was breaking out in my heart. I said, "Along which secret aqueduct, O water, are you coming to me, water of a new life that I have never drunk?" Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt marvelous error, that I had a beehive here inside my heart, and the golden bees were making white combs and sweet honey from my old failures. Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt marvelous error, that the fiery sun was giving light inside my heart. It was fiery because I felt warmth as from a hearth, and sun because it gave light and brought tears to my eyes. Last night as I slept, I dreamt marvelous error, that it was God I had here inside my heart. So there's this secret aqueduct in my heart and sweet honey, economy, fertilizing my life with old failures, and nothing is wasted. It's in my heart, and the whole new sun is in my heart. But most marvelous error of all, that God is in my heart. To claim that. To respond to Jesus says, "Yes, I am the light of the world. Yes, I am the light of the world. I am. God is in my heart." So when you think about night, to-do list was created by your yesterday's person, right? But when you wake up, things change, and you rebel against consensus reality of the yesterday that is out there and in you. So who are you now, and who are you becoming? And I want to go through 5 mystic turns. And what do we mean by mystic turns? The mystic turn is the way to describe direct experience of life, or to live a direct experience, living a life greater than what we can control. And I got a little creative here. It's kind of the beginnings. I did this last night. Life I can control and life I can live. It's 2 different things. And life you can live that you cannot control is much larger, right? It is experience versus explanations. Explanations defend what we already know. We love to explain things, right? We love to understand things and work with our brains and discuss things, but we are explaining, just justifying what we already know. But experience introduces something new. We can't create something by just thinking about it or talking or having a sermon, right? You can't do much. You can just think about things. We have to create a way of being around it, which means allowing ourselves to experience something new, allowing ourselves to have an experience where we are not in control. So we cannot change. We are not on a raft left to change. We are not on a motorboat to go wherever we want. We are like a sailboat. You have some action there, but the winds have their own thing, right? So you have to kind of live in between those 2 things. So first mystic turn would be befriending the unknown. And we inhabit change. And first is to relax. Relax. Transformation is much simpler than would make it out to be. Make soup. Vacuum the house. Repair the bike. Say sorry. Take a nap, pay your bills, thank people, go for a walk. Sing, cry, sit quietly in your kitchen late at night with the lights off. Stop solving problems. Transformation happens when we have one foot in the known and one foot in the unknown. In that sweet awkwardness, real change happens in real time. So, in the unknown, transformation is not only possible, but it's inevitable. So, a question for you. What is the state of your friendship with the unknown? We feel something is wrong with us when we don't have an easy answer. Something is off. We feel like in our bodies that something is off when we don't have an easy answer. When were you last rewarded in a school for not knowing? Saying, excuse me, teacher, excuse me, I have no idea what you're talking about. Right? So we are not rewarded with that. But to have a relationship with the unknown is to have a proper relationship with reality. Proper relationship with reality. If you don't know, you're real. Imagine life without the unknown. Imagine there is no line in which you can step a future territory. Everything you want to be is across that line, and that's where you're going to end up. All the fears and all the joys. Life without unknown would be without joy and would be without fear, and we don't want to live without fear. Fear signals to you that you are about to be challenged and have a new experience and have an opportunity for growth, opportunity to change, right? So we embrace those things. And I love, one of the, I don't know which posters you had when you were growing up in high school. I had David Bowie. And he sings, changes, turn your face to strange. And he's stuttering there because it's hard to face the strange. It's almost like a fear in him. And Jesus was the person who was not knowing. Jesus knew how to be wrong. He was not a child, an adolescent, a young adult who was 80-year-old living in a young body. No, he was discovering everything like we do. Like pubescent hair. Like astonishing drama of transformation and growing. He didn't have stories that he would tell. He was telling them as he was learning them. Oh, look at that tree. Oh, look at that woman. Do you see this? He was actually learning with us, and he was definitely wrong sometimes. There's nothing wrong about being wrong, right? When Syrophoenician woman came to him and said, hey, I need the healing, he said, well, I'm here for the Jews. We don't take from kids and give it to the dogs, right? That's what he says. Now, this is a young, arrogant prophet, right? I don't know if he was teaching something or not. You can have dissertations to go around that. But she came to him and said, hey, let me school you in something. Let me school you, boy, right? I'm a woman, and I'm going to tell you about life. Even dogs have a right to eat from the floor. And he said, oh, my gosh, that's true. That's true. And he turns on, right? So I'm just saying that the Son of God was not knowing and learning, and there's nothing better to left to be feel for us. We can follow in that way. So question also is, when you get into this unknown, there's this other. Are you ready to invite a stranger in your life, including the stranger in you? And meeting thoughts other than your own. Instead of having everybody who is telling you something, interpreting them as a ventriloquist. You want to make them say what you are thinking. Your thoughts. You're constantly seeking for your thoughts. I'm seeking for mine. If you can give up on that, instead have a conversation. Thich Nhat Hanh said, if you say you know, I'm afraid. If you say you don't, I have hope. Instead of always coming from your rehearsed self. So we as humans have a capacity of wayfinding. To cross under that line, we are addicted to the danger of the unknown, of all the species. Joseph Campbell said, cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And humans, we in mere 10,000 years, we went from caves to the moon, right? Because no other species have this drive to step over that line, but we do. And it's a proclivity or addiction or power. And I want to share with you another drawing I have. It's very complex. The thing here is that we all want to know, right? But the more you know, your surface of touch with the unknown is growing, right? The more this grows, the more touch you have with the unknown. So capacity to not know is the capacity that we all need these days. You cannot know without developing a capacity to not know, right? So, so that's the unknown, befriending the unknown. What is your state of your friendship with the unknown? Second mystic turn we have here is arriving to your own life. Do you believe life welcomes you? Is the unknown for you? Do you believe that actually this is not an enemy's territory? This is not a besieged place, the earth. Life welcomes us. It started, as we say, with the Big Bang, and all the way to today, so many people loved one another, so many of our ancestors. So then we were born, and then they fed us, and they changed our diapers over and over again for years and years and years. There was a protection, there was knowledge, there was a blessing. This morning, you had breakfast, you are here. Life, if I would be an alien, and I would just arrive here, looking at you here, looking at us, I would say, life is on your side. Life is on your side, people. Like, it's amazing how much it takes for you to be here. So, hospitality. David White writes in his poem, What to Remember When Waking, you're not a troubled guest on this earth. You're not an accident amidst other accidents. You were invited from another and greater night than the one from which you have emerged. And in the poem, Sweet Darkness, he writes, you must learn one thing, the world was made to be free in. Give up all the other worlds except the one to which you belong. Give up all the other worlds except the one to which you belong. Meaning, be here. And as I said, we need to experience things rather than explain them. So close your eyes, just to have a memory of not just hearing the ideas. If you trust this unknown stranger here, and you're entering a store, and in the store on the shelves, you can buy any life you want. You have money, you can buy any life you want. Imagine all kinds of lives you can have. They're all displayed there. Just walk around, feel the possibility. Take a deep breath, turn around, and walk out. And just keep walking. And ask yourself, what do we have here? What do I have here? And start from there. This world, this place, this family, this house, this city, this body, this. Start where you are. So arriving, we arrive over and over again. We are always leaving and coming. And this arriving to our own selves is really something sometimes very awkward. You see yourself in the mirror. Everyone see you stand in the bathroom and you see yourself in the mirror. It's kind of strange an experience. Like, who is this person looking at me? Who am I looking at the person looking at me? Is the person I think I am seeing the person I think I see? Is anybody watching what I'm doing right now? And you have this conversation. But the thing is, the moment you name who you are is the moment you are not that anymore. You have already changed. The moment you think you know who you are is the moment you are stepping out of that and becoming somebody new. Sometimes I practice, when you fly in back to New York, I love, just so many lights, and I always kind of run around the cabin trying to go on a side where I can see the city and look at where I am there somewhere in that hot mess there. And then you make a choice that you are going to, for the first time, arrive to your life and take it. Would you take it? To come to your own body, your own house, your own family, everything as it is, a wounded body in some way, imperfect. And and that's the first place you arrive into your body. You also find this life force of arriving to others, to friends you have or don't have. And you also arrive to the world, and not just by coming in with your story and say, I can be all I can be. And you know the verse from Mary Oliver who says, tell me, what is it that you plan to do with your life, with your one and only life? I'm sure you're aware of that. But there's also a question, tell me, what is your life wants to do with you? Because we are not going to become who we want to be. We have a photo. This is what we want to be. But the world also wants us to be something. It's going to be neither of the two. It's going to be a painting, not a photo, of what people want you to be and what you want to be. That's for sure. So we end up somewhere there. And you also arrive to your own self and have self-love. Life welcoming you, in you. And Saint Giovanni Bonaventura from 13th century, this is Middle Ages, Dark Ages. He says, enter yourself, therefore, and know that your soul loves itself most fervently. Can you learn to arrive and love your own company? Have a love affair with yourself, and that love affair will last you to the end of your life. Because in Christian tradition, you can only love others as you love yourself and have that affair cared for. Right? And so that's arriving, being intimate with life. And here's my next drawing. Ta-da! Huh? How do you like color scheme here? This is a welcome mat. There is no, only thing that is said to us when we arrive, you're here, it's now, and it's this. Right? Can you arrive to that? So the third one would be being visible. Being visible. Being visible is a vulnerable place when you're seen. But vulnerability is not, what if we see vulnerability not as a weakness, but as a way of seeing, of hearing, of imagining, of coming in contact with the world around us? That world can actually affect us, that we can have actual relationship. What if we can turn vulnerability into strength? And we live in a society, and United States in particular has been this kind of like a rugged individualistic place where you need to succeed and you don't need help, right? You can do it on your own. But one of the definitions of maturity is asking for help. Adam, remember before the fall, he was kind of like going around, the garden, and he's like, I don't like it here. I need something. And God, you're okay, but you're not enough. Right? God is like, okay, good, I can take that. I'm glad you said that. That in your perfection, you realize you cannot do it alone. He was lonely and in need of something, a human being, in need of something because he was perfect. Right? So we ask for help. Being in need and asking for help is a sign of our growth and depth and maturity. Jesus was in need all the time. He needed a womb to be born, as we have talking about. He needed a woman in a well. He was thirsty. He didn't say, hey, I'm a Messiah. I'm going to just create water for myself, or I'm going to just pretend that I'm thirsty, that I cannot grab water so they can talk about it in a seminary later about how to do evangelism. Right? No, he was actually thirsty. Right? When he was in Gethsemane, he said, pray for me. He didn't say, let me give a lesson about prayer before I die. No, he was, I have a hard time. I cannot do this alone, right? So he was like that. So what do you want most deeply and sincerely for yourself but are afraid to ask? Because what you most deeply and sincerely for yourself certainly cannot be done alone. Certainly. Otherwise, it's not neither deep nor sincere. And so, letting ourselves need things and make ourselves visible with what we need. And that need can be from the elements, from the culture, from sky and sea and color pink and everything we call beautiful, and the human organizations like that we have to help each other. Whatever that is, asking for help from another person is magical. That's as close as you can get to give the best compliment you can have. When you ask for help, you are recognizing gift into another person. There's nothing more beautiful than to be seen and be needed and be asked to participate. And we don't give that to other people. Another way we are visible is through our stories and our presence. Roughly, spirituality has east and west to it, however inadequate that is to say. But the Western one is about story. The Eastern one is about presence. And our minds work like a toggle. We are either present in the moment or making up a story in our head, what are we going to say? Right? It's very hard to listen to your child and make up your lesson, right? You have to let go of making a story in order to be there to listen. And then you can come back to the story and then communicate, right? You cannot do both at once. And so having the story is such a powerful thing because in Eastern tradition, story is a problem because they're made up. It's all made up. Everything, whole reality is made up. We keep making up stories, right? That's a problem. But it's also not a problem, but a power because it actually creates reality, the stories that we tell each other. On the other hand, you also need to be present and show up. So to be visible is to put your flag down and say, I'm here. I have unrehearsed conversation with everybody. I'm ready to have unrehearsed conversation about anything with anybody, right? And also I have my story that is constantly being retold and reworked in my life, right? You can think about it like that. So, and the last thing about being visible is your artistry. We are all artists, and we are all calling and being called, and art is something, can be life art, like cooking, gardening, education, motorcycle repair, daily life, being a mother. You know, I thought being a father was great. I have 2 girls, and then I met Megan today. She has 4 girls. Like, wow. You know, I don't know. Van Gogh has nothing on you. You know, like, so, and then there's also physical arts, yoga and martial arts and sports and social arts, a family, friendship organizations and things like that. Can you claim your artistry? Can we stop saying, I'm sorry, you know, and get out of our way? We love what you have. The world loves what you have and needs what you have. So I want to read a quote here by Rilke, where God learns. Take your well-disciplined strengths and stretch them between 2 opposing poles, because inside human beings is where God learns. Right? So then I had a little drawing where God learns. It's you. Right? So God learned through Jesus, right? Jesus was learning. We have something really unique to contribute to the conversation with our lives. And so that's being visible. Next one is disappearing. I was a pastor here in this area a long time ago, and I had a little one let off, I don't know, I think she was 4 or 5. She goes to bed, and you know, when they go to bed, they start either talking about boyfriends or God, right? Because that's how you will not put them to bed. You are like in, you know, that's the topic you will not say, oh, shush, we'll talk about it tomorrow. So then I come in and say, I want to ask you, Dad. She never talks religion, you know. She says, I don't get it. Why would we live forever? Makes no sense. Like plants, they come, they live, and then they die, and animals, and then other plants get to live, and other animals get to live. So when we live, we have our turn. We have our turn, we put our love, we put what we have into the world, and then others get it, and that's how it goes. And I'm like, I need to have my theology straight. So I'm like, that's a mystery. And that was lame. But thinking about it, I know somebody who said, I'm okay to die so others can live. I'm okay with that. I don't have to live forever. And I remember once I was, actually, Jesus was talking about the eternal kind of life to us. And I was thinking about what she was telling me, and I was in this workshop with a mystic rabbi. He had a long beard, and he was dressed in black, and I had a whole weekend with conversation with him. There was like 10 of us. And then at one point, I asked him, Rebbe, what about eternal life? What about eternal life? And he looks at me, and he knows exactly where I'm coming from. He exactly knows what's my concerns, what's going on, right? So he stroked his beard. Oh, he's stroking his beard. He said, one world at a time, my son, one world at a time. Why? I think God wants us to live in this world. One world at a time. Do not postpone living fully, totally committed here because of some other world. If that world comes, that's great. And so we want to live forever, and we do. We do because our ancestors live in us. They live through our... Do you feel the love of the past palpitating in your veins? You know how much love He has taken for us to be here? I mean, think where we were 20,000 years ago. What we were doing to each other, right? Think about love that was palpitating for people you know, people who you don't know also, their love. And think of your love palpitating in the life of the future, yourself. And so I want to invite you to embrace this glorious disappearance. It's as important as birth. When we were born, we didn't know what was going to happen to us when we were coming to a new life, right? We don't know. It must be as well a new beginning. And I am so relaxed about, disappearing, most days. If my wife goes first, I have plans. I'm going to get a dog, and I'm going to start smoking. So I really love to smoke. I haven't smoked since high school. It was a long, long years. But, at the end, it's like getting a tattoo. I'm not going to be a model, it's just going to take time, and I'm just going to just enjoy it, It's getting into this kind of like fire and smoke and all the elements and all that. It's wonderful. Smoking is great. But it'll kill you, So you got to, plan for it. So glorious disappearance allows us to put things in perspective. Every important question in life has one answer that is true. You die. Right? Whatever you're doing, you die. I'm a coach. I coach executive people about their, how they function as leaders and all those kind of things. And sometimes I ask them to go to a cemetery when we talk. Sit there and tell me about your life and your values, right? And look at those graves, right? Everything changes. Everything shifts, right? So when we want to grow personally, what time is it? All right. I'll speed through this a little bit, just a little bit. We start all telling each other, you are enough, right? And we need to hear that. I am enough, right? I am enough. But then you say that one more time, and you say that for a year, and a year, and a year, and time goes on. And you realize towards the end of your life, or middle of life, if you're lucky, you're not enough. Actually, for everything that matters in life, you are just participating. It's not about you at all. Everything that matters, that you want to accomplish in life, that you want to see the world, you are not enough. You need other people, and other people need you. So you better participate. Often stop leading, please, and start participating. right? Because leadership is often like an immortality project, but participation project is more important than immortality project. You're a participant. So how much of the world can we include in our identity? What is in me, within my skin, is me. What is outside of my skin is me. How much I can live that out. That the kingdom of God that Jesus talked about is actually, I am really a part of it, not a part of it. A part, not apart, right? I don't know. My English is a little, giving in there, but this is difference. And then you invite others. And what invitation are you making just by entering a room? When you enter a room, people who know you, your family and friends, they know what your riddle in life. They know what your questions are and what do you want to do and what do you want to accomplish and what matters to you. We issue an invitation to people just by showing up. So I want you to think of that invitation. Invitation of Jesus, in my opinion, was, come follow me and together we will learn to love well. We will learn to love well. You might not have that many friends. They might actually put you in some, in prison, and you might have all kinds of problems, right? You might not have a stone to put your head on. You might not have all kinds of things will happen to you. But one thing I know, you may lose everything, but you will know how to love well. And that was his invitation. So here is the turn, my next graphic, the end. Right? This is where it's going. Right? If anything happens after that, it is because you have lived one world at a time properly. Not because you are living half-hearted or there's other way to say it, not fully committed. So that's, and the last turn here is becoming yourself. There is this Theseus ship paradox. I don't know if you heard it. The paradox is a really good word. In Homer's Odyssey, there is this guy, Theseus, and he takes the youth of Athens and takes them from Crete to Athens, and it was just a big thing, and Plutarch was writing about it. And this ship worked for 150 years. So the question is this. In 150 years, they changed all the parts of the ship, and by the time it came to 150 years to the end, every part was changed. Is that the same ship? Right? Is that the same ship? And that's the paradox. The thing is that so much in us is changing all the time that who we are is really hard to grasp. It's hard to say it. We are so close to ourselves that we don't see it. If you could name it, it would be a wrong name. The moment you say who you are, and the moment you describe yourself, you are bigger than what you describe because you are describing it and you are seeing it from the outside, right? So it is the issue here is that it's this non-dualist way to say, you can either say, I can either tell you who I am, or I can experience who I am. I know, but I cannot say it, right? I can sense it, or I can talk about it, but I cannot do both, right? So you are an experience, and I am an experience. That's the closest we can get to something. And so here is the thing about how we change. We change through witness of other people. A human being cannot accept a part of themselves that they haven't shared with another human being and had validated rather than violated. That means that who we are and what we practice to become actually doesn't become identity until it's seen by another person and not judged but accepted. Right? It's the moment when we sort of come out and are seen and are accepted. Gloria Steinem puts it, every transformation needs a witness. And here's another embodiment paradox. I can become myself only with the support of others. And so that's where we are. I want to invite you to harvest who you are becoming. To harvest it. And what that means is to not live this life of conditionality, but actually finding places finding a ways to be happy and be here and fully present without constant turn to conditions and circumstances, right? And even when you're wrong, you can harvest that. Oh my God, isn't it great to be wrong about something? Like, you're wrong about something and you are caught. And it's like, no, that's me. I cannot be wrong. I have to know, right? Or you can be caught and say, thank you. Thank you. That is great, right? So, I want to finish with a little reading here from David White in his book, Still Possible. And this is about this other part of life. You know, we love to achieve, be great, celebrate, as you say, but there's this other part of lament, as you're talking about here, right? It's 50% of the life is losing. And you got to live it fully, live sadness fully. That's a fully human life. He puts it, and because after all this time you have lived for so long without faith in your own joys and your own grief. Put down your heavy burden and rest from the hard everyday labor of not hurting or not feeling or hearing or saying or seeing. Put down your heavy burden and rest from the hard everyday labor of not hurting or not feeling or hearing or saying or seeing. Stop keeping the tears at bay, I say. Give it all up. Just come home. So, my final graphic is the other half. The other half of life that we need to live. And another line of poem, and we close. This is Love After Love. I don't know if you have heard the poem by Derek Walcott. He's from Santa Lucia Island in Caribbean. He got a Nobel Prize for Literature in 1992. He wrote long poems nobody could understand. And classical local images and metaphors. But this poem is different. It's almost like he stopped. He just stopped, and in the middle of his journey, he wrote this short poem in simplest of terms, joy of two selves greeting one another. And here it is, Love After Love. Those of you who are in your 20s, you will find it curious. Those of you who are in your 40s, you will find it like, that might make sense. Those of you who are in the 60s might look at this poem and say, finally somebody says it. This is true, right? The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit, feast on your life. Sit, feast on your life. To love life, to be intimate with life, fully intimate with your own life. That's the only way to this unknown, and the only way to any eternity that we can imagine, right? To actually be here, now, and in this. Well, thank you, friends, for letting me have this conversation. And I'm starting this conversation, and we are doing a 5-week cohort experience of personal growth that's simple, joyful, and real while working for social transformation. And I hope our conversation continues. So may you go into the new year and be more dangerous to the world and to yourself. All right.